Hi, Peter. It's nice to see you again, even if it's virtually.
Hi, Gary. Good to see you. Absolutely. I'm glad we're able to do that.
Um, it's a special pleasure to have you on the program today, as I went to and very much enjoyed the events that you hosted at the South Florida Institute on Aging. And I've been to every one but two of the ASA conferences in the last millennia, and learned so much from and enjoyed both of them so very much, that it's, I'm very much looking forward to what you're doing to affect the work of the ASA. So let me start with, what is the ASA and how does it help family caregivers?
Sure. Well, I hope you join us in Atlanta when it happens again this year or next year in San Francisco. But the American Society on Aging is the nation's largest and oldest diverse association of professionals in the field of aging. We've been around for 69 years. Next year will be our 70th birthday. And what we like to say is we sort of created the field of aging, or put differently, we've brought together gerontologists, caregivers, business leaders, lawyers, doctors, academics, everyone who is advocating on behalf of or working with older adults. And I think that really diverse, broad tent that the ASA has built has allowed for really powerful networking, educational opportunities, as well as other sorts of impact through policy or program development.
Every time I came back from an ASA event around the country, I'd come back with, a boatload of leads and information and new innovations in caregiving that I never knew about. And I'd hand it to the writers, and I'm not sure if they were thrilled or horrified that I gave them so much work, but it's really the place where everybody goes to meet, to discuss and learn and share. That's one of the things that I've always seen about ASA. It is a sharing organization. Nobody hides, nobody holds back. And if you have an innovation, if you have something that your organization, your area agency, your Alzheimer's Association, your company has done, you're out there really wanting to help other people. And I love that about the ASA.
Yeah, it's very much embedded in the DNA of the organization. And I think a little bit of history for those of you who are interested in the ASA history, it started as the Western Gerontological Society. And it was started in the 50s in response to what wasn't happening on the East Coast. Some would say that the Western Gerontological Society was sort of a progressive response to what wasn't going on the East Coast. And over time, situated in San Francisco for so many years, it really was important to the leaders then to continually educate and inform the field by bringing people together from across the country. So that's very much in the DNA of this organization. So I love that to this day, we love that our members love to share their expertise. So when it comes to caregiving, I would argue that caregiving is probably one of the most talked about topics at our conference annually, and throughout the course of the year in our thought leadership, in our generations publications, in webinars that are put on by our partners and others. So caregiving is such a critical, basic issue to the work that our ASA members do that you can't ignore it.
No, it's terrific. And one thing that I really enjoy is that you will move it across the country. You're not telling leaders and thought leaders and organization and government folks, oh, we're going to do it in San Francisco, you're going to come here. And I find that really helps the flow of information. I really do. You do it in Washington, you do it in Chicago, you do it in San Francisco, Atlanta, and I think that makes a great deal of difference.
Well, it does for a number of reasons, Gary, right? The first is the cost. We're cognizant of the fact that ASA members many of them work in community-based organizations and are unable to afford the travel expenses to come to the conference. So if you skip 1 year because it's too far, it's too expensive, you'll come the next year because it's going to be closer to you. The second is no one in this country has a monopoly on how to do this right. And so I really think it's important that we share what happens in South Florida with what happens in the middle of Oklahoma and what happens in pockets of California and what happens in Nevada, and et cetera. I think it's really important for the ASA to continue to play this convening role to bring together different kinds of expertise from across the country to our conference and to the membership writ large.
So let me put you on the spot a little bit. You've been CEO for 2.5 very challenging years. What changes do you want to make? What changes have you made? And where do you see the organization going under your leadership?
Yeah. And I can't believe this, Gary, but we're almost to the 3-year anniversary in just 2 weeks' time. It's crazy. Under my leadership in the last 3 years, I think it's fair to say that what we've been trying to do is have the ASA have its own voice on issues. And here's what I mean by that. First of all, we in the first 6 or 8 months, we completely overhauled the look and feel of the ASA. We brought it into the 21st century with a sense of vibrancy and optimism about aging that I think the field of aging doesn't do enough of. We do an awful lot to reinforce the decline stereotypes of aging and not the optimism and the hope one feels for being able to wake up every day and breathe a little more and live a little longer. And that's not to say that we're trying to happy wash aging, because aging can be very difficult. But it is an attempt to demonstrate, look, field of aging, aging is not just about the biology of aging. There are a universe of social and economic issues that we need to address as a country if we're going to actually make this aging process better for as many people as possible. So our new branding and our new marketing reflects that optimism and that hope. So that was an effort. The second big effort was really reimagining what our members needed from us. And in a time when everyone was practically and candidly panicked about what to do with the pandemic. You know, there were headlines about the number of seniors that were dying every day. And so while our average members were out in the field doing the hard work, we were tinkering behind the scenes to figure out exactly how to deliver content, how to deliver services, and how to address some of the big policy issues that we think that the ASA should be addressing moving forward. So in about a year's time after I started, we launched a digital publication, expanding Generations from its paper form to a digital form, which allowed us to get content out to more people. I don't have to tell you this, you know the power of the internet and the power of circulating messages and important thought leadership. Second, we doubled down on the ASA voice. In other words, the ASA can't be everything to everyone, but as an organization, we needed to do a better job of getting smarter on the issues that our members were dealing with. So for example, we brought on staff gerontologists and sociologists. We brought on staff fundraisers and membership management providers. These are folks who have worked in the field of aging. These are folks who have launched diversity, equity, and inclusion initiatives. We brought them onto our staff at ASA to really build the capacity of the organization and to be able to lead. And finally, in these first 3 years, we launched a policy agenda. We surveyed our members, and we really had to focus on those issues that we thought weren't being addressed by other organizations. And where we landed was with a focus on digital literacy, combating ageism, increasing health equity, and battling the climate crisis for older adults. And together with our other partners, our national partners, we continue to fight for strong safety nets, for making sure that some of the wonderful programs that the Older Americans Act provides for is well funded. We were there locked arm in arm with all of those other organizations. But I think in the spirit of where I started, which is to say, really providing ASA with its own unique voice, it was important that we had our own policy platform as well. So we've launched that. So we've done a lot in the last 3 years and grown membership by 36%.
By the way, not to mention, let me pull that out of my sleeve. Tell me about the governmental advocacy that you guys do. That's relatively new piece of what you're doing.
Yeah, that is one of the newest things that we're doing. From a policy perspective, we always had a really strong DC membership base, but they all were working for their own employers and for their own associations, which makes sense. And historically, the ASA being geographically away from DC, based in San Francisco, having a proactive agenda was not a priority until a few years ago, when the then board passed a strategic plan that specifically called out a couple of things, which I'll also mention, but one of them was policy and building a policy agenda. And so what we've done these last 3 years is first really understand what our members care about. Many of them, like I said, have day jobs in the policy space, so they didn't want the issues to conflict, which makes sense. Other people are in the field and they recognize the price of housing, the lack of jobs, the caregiving issues that they see on the front lines. So those issues bubbled up to the surface. Some people were in the middle of the country mentioning the droughts and the fires, or on our coastal communities, as we are here in South Florida. It becomes pretty obvious why we need to care about rising waters and hurricanes, particularly given what happened with Hurricane Ian. The point is, we allowed our members to talk about day-to-day issues that historically the aging community had not talked about. And so I think I'm really happy that we're able to identify those issues, move them forward. We now have a full policy agenda with our priorities and some of our ideas and some of the bills that have been proposed in Congress that we like, now listed on our website, front and center. But this is, as anyone in advocacy knows, it's a marathon, not a sprint. We just started crawling, to use another metaphor. And so next up is an entire stakeholder engagement plan where we are going to work with partners. We're going to set up meetings with those members of Congress who are really good on our issues, and just introduce the ASA as a resource, and really help, drive some of these non-traditional issues forward in a way that I think we have. And talk about things in silos, but then you'd be doing a disservice to the human that you're trying to help if you don't also connect the dots laterally or across the board. Another great example of that is in health equity. For us, when we talk about health equity, we talk about the need to to improve the diversity and the equity and the inclusion efforts of the medical profession, those who are providing care, those who are receiving care. Is it done in a culturally competent way? Do we even know the numbers? Do we have all the data that we need to make sure that government services are being delivered inclusively? And so we're really proud of this sort of DEI focus at the ASA, so much so that we launched in January of 22 something called ASA Rise, which is a new leadership and social justice academy for rising leaders of color. I think it was pretty obvious to anyone who was paying attention to what was going on in the pandemic that people of color were disproportionately impacted by COVID. Mm. And then when you look a little more granularly and you look at the aging service providers, many of those organizations are historically run by white leaders and yet serve historically marginalized communities. And there was a disconnect for us. We think that the leadership and the organizations that serve these communities should look like the communities that they serve. So we took it upon ourselves to create this new leadership and social justice academy, and have graduated 1, 2, we're now in our 3rd class, and really excited about the future of the field of aging, and that we're creating this pipeline of talent that is already rising. Simple example is what we just did with Shutterstock, which is a national, you may know this, it's a digital database of imagery.
Yeah.
But we partnered with Shutterstock. They came to us and said, hey, we want to create more age-inclusive imagery. And we said, wonderful. How are you going to do it? They didn't know. So we advised them, provided a toolkit, and now they have a brand new library of age-inclusive imagery that shows real people in real scenarios. So it's not the same older white woman who has frail hands being used repeatedly. That's not us. I mean, that's, some people look like that, but that's not everybody. And so we think it's really important to show real aging by real people. And so the Shutterstock library is actually a fantastic example of an age-inclusive, diverse library of imagery. Anyway, I'm rambling, but the point is DEI is embedded in the fabric of this organization going way back when. And so I'm really proud to continue it under my watch.
Well, the Shutterstock thing is interesting because in the old days, which, today's Caregiver magazine just turned 28, I think.
Congratulations.
And there were like 6 pictures. It was the white doctor with the stethoscope and the elderly lady with her younger daughter with the hand on hand. There were 6 pictures that anybody could ever use. And my editor, it was just driving her to drink, not that she drinks, but trying to find the 7th picture or trying to use a part of the picture nobody used. So I'm really quite thrilled that they're doing that. I wanted to make sure that we talked about what we call resolution solution. It's the beginning of the year, relatively speaking, and a lot of people say, okay, now that my gym membership is expired, maybe I'll go back, maybe I'll start dieting. I think that there are resolutions that family caregivers need to make about caring for themselves, about caring for their loved ones. And that's why I wanted to get experts like yourself to just share your hopeful resolutions for family caregivers.
Yeah, I'm so glad you have this initiative, because I think caregiving is such a sacrifice. You're doing such a service to others, your loved ones or your family members or your friends, that you often forget about yourself. And I think I'm glad that we've had people like you and other caregiving advocates remind everyone that step 1 is to take care of yourself, make time for yourself. And so if I had a list of resolutions, the first and foremost is to take time off your calendar for yourself. And that could be as simple as a 10-minute mindful meditation, a 10-minute walk, a fun 10-minute YouTube comedy streaming opportunity where you can laugh at a fun comedian just to get those endorphins rolling.
It's a great idea.
But just to take those 10 minutes, and I think 10 minutes is really all you need, just to break up the day for you. So that would be one resolution, is take those 10 minutes to do something fun for yourself.
I think
the second resolution I would say is take time to talk about your caregiving responsibilities with others. Don't be ashamed about it. Because I think as soon as you start opening up and sort of coming out, if you will, from your caregiving closet, people will come out to you and will agree that it's a struggle, or it's a challenge, or it's really difficult. And all of a sudden, your relationships will get that much richer. So I would say those would be my 2 top resolutions: is take some time out for yourself and share your experiences. Don't be embarrassed.
I think it's great. And I think anybody who's in the caregiving arena, I hate the word space, because this isn't a space like a banking space. This is the arena that we all are in, fighting for our loved ones and our clients and our friends, needs to find themselves at the end of March in Atlanta at the ASA conference. And I think that, you know, if I could make that recommendation to anybody after 20 years of going, I would make it.